going to cover how to be more efficient when you get to the track. I get a lot of texts and emails about, about what can I do to be more efficient when I get to the track? How should I organize my people, and what should I do? What should we all do when we first unload? And for starters, it's ideal, right, if you can always have the same couple of guys help you, and you give them a job and you lead them on that same job. Like, don't keep moving your people around. Don't have the tire guy be the shock travel guy next week and the jack guy the following week. That way everybody gets into a rhythm and knows what they're doing. Before you even get out of the car to go sign in, like, make sure everybody kind of knows, like, okay, this is what we're doing. I need you to go get 2 sets of tires. We gotta get the tech right away. Make sure we top off the fuel and put air in the tires before we roll away from our stall. We don't want to be sitting in the tech line and be like, oh, we still got to put 10 gallons of gas in this thing. Ideally you have that stuff, the gas in it, and prepared before you even leave, or even at the end of the day. If you got 2-day shows, there's a lot of that where you have an open practice day, and then the next day, first thing you gotta do is roll the tech. And before you load it the night before, bump your tire pressures up a few pounds above what tech is gonna be. If it's 20 and 30, have them up a little bit, and top it off with fuel and be ready to go. So in the morning you can roll out and roll right in the tech line and be in the front of the line. A lot of people I watch, right, they're still building a race car while we're sitting in tech line. They're still over on their jack stands, and then when it's time to practice, they're in tech line. Like, they've already, they're the ones that need the most practice, and they can't even practice because they haven't gotten through tech yet. So have a plan, be ready, keep your people in doing the same jobs, and refine, get better at taking notes. Just some simple stuff, really. Make sure your wear tabs are set on the bottom, your shock travels are up, so that your first run you come in, when you look at the car, you know what you did out there, how close you are to the track. Usually I'll add an 1/8 inch of packer if I'm on bump stops for my first run, just to make sure I don't bottom out if I think I'm close. If it's someplace I don't race a lot, and it's different if you run every Saturday night and that what I had last week is going to be good this week. I don't have to worry about my travel. But if you're a tour race and it's a different track every week, a lot of times I'll do all my stuff on my machine and I'll add an 1/8 inch packer across the front to make the first run. Look under the crossmember when I roll in. Yep, we're still, we're plenty good. I'll pull that 1/8 back out and get to practicing. Because if you bottom out, you don't know if you hit it. Did I miss it by an 1/8 or did I miss it by a 1/2 inch? If you want to be 1/8 off the track and you're 3/8 off the track, you can pull a packer and or 3/16 and you're close. But if you're both sides are laid into the track and you're all over out there, just like when you're making your first run. As a driver, you kind of know, am I hitting a little or am I killing the bottom of the car, right? If you're killing the bottom of the car, don't go run 10 laps like that. Just come back in and add a packer to the front end. Try to be fairly quick about figuring out what it is that you need out of your car. The best you can ever hope for is getting the car you ask for. So when you go out there and you have your couple of guys in the pits, they're only there to help you, so you got to help them help you with good information, right? So when you're coming back to pit road, you need to already be on the radio talking to them, telling them, like, all right, this is what it's doing. I feel it's, and start at the beginning. Don't just tell them it's loose off, when you're plowing tight getting in. Start at the beginning. Say, okay, it turns off the wall good, and then it starts picking up a push before I even get to the center, and right before I want to get to the gas is where it's tightest, right? So I got all kinds of wheel wrapped in it. I go to the gas, right, and it starts to shove the nose, and then it catches, and then it steps sideways. Well, you're not loose. You're so tight that you're loose, right? So, but you got to give them that information so that they can help you, and so they know what's coming next. For me, I tell my guys before practice starts, every time we come in, we're going on 4 stands. I don't care, unless I tell you not to, we're going on 4 stands. Because you don't want to come in and everyone's standing there looking at each other, and they're like, hey, let's get on jack stands. Like, we only got a 15-minute practice and we just spent 3 of them looking at each other. Like, we're going on stands, we're making our adjustment, and then we're getting right back out. And designate who the guy is who's kind of leading it. A lot of teams, right, the driver is the crew chief kind of, because his guys are just some buddies that maybe don't know as much, and they're just there trying to help them. Well, then make sure that they know what's going to happen when they come in the pits. Cars going on jack stands, right? The guy who's taking tire pressures or temps, everybody's writing their stuff down, and you're going to quick look at it and make a decision, and maybe you're calling out changes as you're doing it. Like, okay, let's go up, put a packer in the right front, pull one out of the left front. We're too tight, we need to get some bar out of the car. Most of the time when people are tight entry-wise, it's bar related. kind of be thinking in your mind, like, how do I got to get bar out of this thing, you know? And you need information. What are my front shock travels? What are my wear tabs? You know, that guy tells you your information, then you can call out, okay, based off that, this is what I think we need to do. Fuel and tires, right? I see a lot of people keep putting fuel in and keep adjusting their air pressure all through practice. Like, I only put fuel in if I put tires on. You know, unless you're on a tire program where you run and use tires every week, like if you're a tour guy, you're never going to be in a situation racing where you're full of fuel on 80 lap tires. So don't practice full of fuel on 80 lap tires. You know, figure a gallon every 10 laps. So if you know you got 80 lap tires, fill up your car, set it up, and when you're done, pump 8 gallons out. Now you got fuel that matches your tires, so your balance is right, so that when you go sticker up, your car doesn't just go dead tight all of a sudden, right? Because if you're on 100 lap tires full of fuel, which is gonna be free as heck, and you get your car so it feels great, as soon as you put tires on and fuel in it again, your balance is gonna be so far off, you're gonna be just dead tight. Because you're gonna have really sticky tires on a car that you already tightened way up for having too much rear weight on old tires. So keep your tires matched to your fuel as best as you can. Come up with something consistent. Don't be different every time you go to the track if you have one of them kind of programs. If you're on stickers when you race, then that's how you need to practice. Match your fuel to your tires. As far as air goes, I set my air pressure when I go out to practice. Now it's tougher when you're on bleeders because they're always bleeding off. I'm not a big fan of bleeders in practice. I would rather practice without them so I can see where my car's going and then put them in to race if I got to race them. You know, or for my final practice, put them in to get a feel where you got to be. But most people aren't on bleeders, not legal in many of the series anymore. Set your air pressure when you go out and then just monitor it. Don't keep adjusting your air pressure because air pressure is spring rate in your tires. And if you keep dropping air out every time you come in and then practice is over, let's say you got a 30-minute practice and then practice is over and your next practice is an hour. When you come back, your tires are all flat. So you've just been practicing on flat tires. Like you're never gonna be in that situation. In a real race, right? So then you're gonna be wondering, why is my car so different when I stick her up? Well, it's different because you changed the parameters. Like you let all the air out of the tires and you keep bleeding it out, you're never gonna race like that. Now, if you got a 15-minute practice and you gotta get one more running, and I wouldn't go back out at 30 pounds, right? Then you gotta let it out, you know, and you just kind of take that for granted as far as like, well, you know, I'm not ideal situation, but I need to get this run in, so I'm gonna drop 4 pounds out of all 4 tires to get this one last run in, just so that I'm at, you know, 24, 25 pounds at a decent pressure, not going out there at blazing hot pressure to make that last run, because then you're just gonna be on top of the track anyway. Much over, unless you're at a high bank, much over 27 pounds, most tires are terrible. If you get over 18 and 28, you're pretty much on basketballs. Start them a little low and go run 5 or 10 laps until you feel a car comes in. Like I have my guy who's stopwatch and give me lap times, and the lap that I slow down, I come in, right? So let's say a good lap time at that track's a 15.0, right? So you're a 50, a 40, a 30, a 20, an 0, an 0, a teen, bring it in, and look what your pressures are. All right, I probably want to be a pound below whatever that is my optimum. So what do I got to do to be finishing at that pressure? Where do I got to start? You know, and then you adjust your start pressure from there, so that, you know, if you came in and you're at 16 and 26, you probably want to be coming in around 15 and 25. So start your start pressure to where you're coming in at 15 and 25 at the end of a 10-lap run in practice, or at the end of a 100-lap run in a race. You know, obviously you're going to drop some more out to start the race. You might start practice at 12 and 18, and you might start the race at 10 and 16 or 10 and 15, something like that, just so that pressure, because once you get past that optimum, it's just going to fall off. And same for your qualifying pressure. That'll kind of help you get an idea where you need to be for qualifying. But have that plan before you even start what everyone's doing. Make sure you don't have one guy that doesn't know and he's bleeding air out of your tires every run, and you don't realize that he's adjusting your air pressure while you're adjusting the car. Or the guy who keeps dumping fuel in the car every run, and you don't realize you're adding rear weight the whole time. You know, get everybody on the same page. That, to me, is the most efficient use of your practice, is just the driver to be letting his guys know while he's coming down pit road. Don't wait till you're in your stall in your 15-minute practice and think about it for a minute before you start telling people what you need, because you're just losing time. Like by the time you get to your stall, they should already know the car's going on stands. who's doing pressures, who's doing temps, who's measuring shocks and wear tabs, and they should be hearing what it is the car is doing and then what it needs to do better. You know, the best, like I said earlier, the best you can hope for is to get the car you ask for. So if you don't ask for the right changes and the right things, they're never going to hit the moving target. So to me, that's the most efficient way to use your time, especially when you have short practices.